2, rounding and estimating decimals. So before I can do rounding, I have to make sure I know my place values. So this is what I gave you in the last video, or we talked about it in Thursday in class, the notes. This is the place value. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is your tenths place, your hundredths place, your thousandths place, your 10,000ths place, your hundredths, thousandths place, your millionths place, and so on. And these are spelled like 100 with the THS and 1,000 with the THS. I want you to be able to spell those correctly. Okay? So if I'm going to round, I have to be able to identify the place values that I need. So let's review rounding a little bit with whole numbers. Okay, so let's say I have 1,563. Okay, and I tell you to round 1,563 to the tens place. So the tens place is here. I would look to the right of that place, and if this is a value smaller than 5, then we often say we round down, but what it means is that this number is going to stay the same. So this number rounded to the tens place would be 1,560. Okay, I look to the right, determine what I'm going to round to. If I had the same number and I told you to round it to the hundreds place, here's the hundreds place, I look to the right, that's larger, so we often say round up. This will become, this doesn't stay a 5, it has to become a 6. This becomes 1,600. Okay? The same principles apply when I have decimals, but instead of saying I'm rounding to the hundreds, it might say I'm rounding to the hundredths. So you simply have to know your place values for this to work. So this was my tenths, this is my hundredths, this is the place I want. I look to the right of it. Okay, that's 5 or larger. So that means this becomes 0.13. One rounded to the hundredths place. Okay? Then the next thing that will happen is I may be asked to estimate things by rounding. So I have a question here that it says 6.345 plus 2.42, and then it says tenths, because the directions are to estimate by rounding to the indicated place value. Okay? So this is not a question that is necessarily going to be mental math. This one, the tenths place, well, both of them, the tenths place is here. Okay? So in both cases, I'm going to look to the right of that. This will become 6.3, because this is less than 5. And this will become 2.4, because the number to the right of it is also less than 5. So to round to the tenths, I have to look at the hundredths. And then I'll add these two numbers together. I get 8.7. Okay. If I were subtracting, it would be the same thing. If I were supposed to subtract these two numbers, so if it had been 6.345 minus 2.42 rounded to the tenths, I would just do 6.3 minus 2.4. So that's 5. I have to regroup, but it's still the same rounding principle. Okay? Now, slightly different than this is I might be this is estimating with addition and subtraction by rounding. Okay? Addition and subtraction, I will use rounding. Multiplication and division, or finding the product or quotient, right? Product and quotient, I won't use rounding as much as I will use compatible numbers. So let's say I'm supposed to divide 34.9 by 6.86. Okay? Well, in this case, I'm going to be able to follow rounding rules too. I'm going to make this a 35, and I'm going to make this a 7. So my answer will be 5. Okay? If this had been smaller, maybe this is 33.9, and I'm supposed to divide it by, let's just say 6.2. Okay? I have a decision to make. Okay? Should I call this 30 divided by 6? Well, that's 5. Is this 35 divided by 6? Or is it 35 divided by 7? Well, somewhere my answer is definitely, if I make this 30 divided by 6, I get 5. If I make this 35 divided by 7, I get 5. If I make this 34 divided by 6, my answer's somewhere between 5 and 6, right? So I don't have an exact answer for that if I'm just estimating, but it's somewhere between 5 and 6. Okay? I have already estimated this quotient to be somewhere between 5 and 6. Okay? Sometimes you'll have very, very compatible numbers. That's what they've done with most of the questions. Okay? That you can say, oh, that's almost 12 and that's almost 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. That's almost 18 and that's almost 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. So they will give you a lot of questions where they're nice and compatible. Sometimes you might just say, hey, my answer is going to be between this and this. Okay? Same thing for multiplication. If I have some number 7.123 times 4.9, okay, this is going to become a 7, and this is going to become a 5, and my answer is about 35. Okay, that concludes 3.2, estimating with addition and subtraction in decimals, multiplication and division with decimals. Keep in mind, nowhere in here did I find an exact answer and then round. I'm using my rounding to help me estimate.